Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam, total world victory of Hare Krishna. My name is Sitapati Das.
And my name is Danna Devi.
And this is Bhagavad-gita as it is, chapter 2, text number 39. So Bhagavad-gita, the Song of God, Bhagavad-gita as it is by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, chapter 2. Contents of the Gita summarized, traditional name Sāṅkhye Yoga, text 39. I wish I had some water or something here.
Right.
I'll make it through, yeah. If you're watching this on Facebook, feel free to like, comment, and share. What's a great way to share? Tag a friend. Spread the good news of the Bhagavad-gita. Let's go. Eshate bhihitā sāṅkhye buddhir yoge imāṁ śṛṇu buddhyā yukto yayā pārtha karma-bandhaṁ prahāsyasi karma-bandhaṁ prahāsyasi esha
All this
te
unto you
abhihitā
ascribe
sāṅkhye
by analytical study,
buddhiḥ
intelligence,
yoge
work without fruitive result,
tu
but
imāṁ
this
śṛṇu
just here
buddhyā
by intelligence,
yuktaḥ
dovetailed
yayā
by which
pārtha
or some Pṛthā,
karma-bandhaṁ
bondage of reactions,
prahāsyasi.
he can be released from.
Translation. Epic.
Yes. Thus far, I have declared to you the analytical knowledge of Sāṅkhya philosophy. Now listen to the knowledge of yoga, whereby one works without fruitive results, or sama Pṛthā. When you act by such intelligence, you can free yourself from the bondage of works.
Son of Pṛthā.
Pṛthā or Pṛthā?
Pṛthā. See, it's a long name.
Pṛthā.
Yeah.
Okay, Pṛthā. Okay.
Purport. It's a bunch of paragraphs. We'll split it up. According to the Nirukti or the Vedic dictionary, Sāṅkhya means that which describes phenomena in detail. And that's definitely changed in the new edition. Yeah. See, because there's no difference there. It's the same word. Okay, in the second edition, Sāṅkhya means that which describes things in detail, and Sāṅkhya refers to that philosophy which describes the real nature of the soul. Sāṅkhya versus Sāṅkhya. See the difference? Sāṅkhya.
But isn't the same spelling?
No, because this is Sāṅkhya and this is
A.
Sāṅkhya.
Yeah, it has the A.
Macron,
Yeah.
Macron, long A.
Yeah.
Sāṅkhya means that which describes phenomena in detail, and Sāṅkhya refers to that philosophy which describes the real nature of the soul. Do I know the second edition or do I know the second edition? Yeah, I've been reading that for 25 years. Now, checking the difference between the first and second edition. And Sāṅkhya refers to that philosophy which describes the real nature of the soul. And yoga involves controlling the senses. Arjuna's proposal not to fight was based on sense gratification. Forgetting his prime duty, he wanted to cease fighting because he thought that by not killing his relatives and kinsmen, he would be happier than by enjoying the kingdom by conquering his cousins and brothers, the sons of Dhritarashtra. In both ways, the basic principles were for sense gratification. Happiness derived from conquering them and happiness derived from seeing kinsmen alive are born on the basis of persona one sense gratification.
They added the number one there.
Personal sense gratification. But there is a sacrifice of wisdom and duty. Okay, hang on a second. That's definitely changed in the second edition. Happiness derived from conquering them and happiness derived from seeing kinsmen alive are both on the basis of personal sense gratification. For there is a sacrifice of wisdom and duty. Even at a sacrifice of wisdom and duty.
Even.
Yeah, even at a sacrifice of wisdom and duty. Because this sentence doesn't make sense to me. And if I had read a sentence in the second edition that didn't make sense to me, I would remember that. That sentence doesn't make sense.
But there is a sacrifice of wisdom and duty.
The first
I
part,
could understand that.
well, the first part makes sense. Happiness derived from conquering them and happiness derived by seeing kinsmen alive are both on the basis of personal sense gratification. For there is a sacrifice of wisdom and duty. What?
Well, there is a sacrifice of wisdom and duty. Yeah, because it, sorry, can you highlight that? My eyes is just a bit of, yeah. Happiness derived from conquering our happiness, yeah, that is true, when they're alive or when you conquer them, there is happiness, there's gratification. For there is sacrifice of wisdom and duty. For there is sacrifice of wisdom and duty. So by doing that, basically saying it is sacrifice of wisdom and duty. So utilizing your wisdom to know that, and your duty is to actually not do yeah.
Okay.
I don't know, I just understand that way. Maybe it's just my brain rewired in such a way that I can understand the complex stuff.
What?
Okay.
According to Nirukti or Vedic dictionary, sāṅkhye means that which describes things in detail, and yoga means controlling the senses. That's completely different to both of them. Let's go to this.
Nuki.
Describes things in detail, and yoga means controlling the senses.
The other one is like Nirukti. The other one, and Srila Prabhupada's Jaris, it says different.
Yeah, it's got an H on the end. Nirukti. It has the H on the end. Niruktihi.
Yeah.
Happiness derived from conquering over them, and happiness derived by seeing his kinsmen alive, both are on the basis of personal sense gratification, even at the sacrifice of wisdom and duty, which is what it says in here. Even at a sacrifice, not even at.
A sacrifice.
There is a sacrifice. It would have been better as even at the.
But this is in Srila Prabhupada.
Even at the.
Yeah.
Even at the sacrifice of wisdom and duty.
Yeah, they're putting, wisdom's sacrificing both of them for sense gratification.
Yeah, okay.
So I think that it's good to be there.
Krishna therefore wanted to explain to Arjuna. One thing that's interesting is, you see here, at some point this has got changed to sāṅkhye, and sāṅkhye refers to philosophy, But in the original manuscript, Srila Prabhupada says sāṅkhye and yoga. Not sāṅkhye and sāṅkhya.
Yeah, there's two different things. Like, how can they come with sāṅkhye and sāṅkhya, or whatever it's pronounced?
Well, I always found that interesting here, because basically sāṅkhya means that which describes things in detail. It literally means like counting or enumeration or distinction. Sāṅkhya. Distinction, distinguishing the body and the mind and the soul.
Means that which describes things in detail. Okay, yeah, so it breaks down.
Yeah, so it breaks them into the components.
Yeah.
Like when they put white light through a prism and it splits into a rainbow of colors?
You're talking lately a lot about rainbow.
Well, it's Pride Month.
Oh,
June.
get out.
So,
who cares?
Because the point I'm making there is the white light is composed of constituent elements, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Sāṅkhye means discrimination or distinction or just chopping things up, dividing.
I don't understand it in detail. It's like, what do you call this one? My brain's quite tired. It's 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
Full day.
In analytical study in the Vedanta.
Mm-hmm.
See, analytical study of the material world, analytical knowledge, analytical study of material conditions, philosophical method of distinguishing matter from spirit, analytically study the universe, metaphysics, the process of Sāṅkhye meditation by which one learns to discriminate between matter and spirit, the doctrine of philosophic investigation, the analytical study of the material elements, analytical study, right? So that really gives you a sense of it. And if we look for Sāṅkhya, see, Sāṅkhya, alpakara, reduce your number. Alpa Sāṅkhya. So Sāṅkhya means like counting or number. Yeah, numbering. Innumerable, numbering.
Mm.
Guna Sāṅkhyana of the Sāṅkhya yoga system. So it means like an amount or a numbering. Counting, enumeration.
Sounds more like a mathematic language.
Sāṅkhyana, the philosophy of the 24 material elements.
Mm.
So Sāṅkhya, when we say that it means that which describe things in detail, it means like literally an enumeration. And Sāṅkhya means a specific philosophy that does an enumeration, which enumerates the body, the matter and spirit, the body and the soul. Because like the periodic table, that would be a Sāṅkhya, the number of elements that exist. Electrons, protons, atoms.
Mm-hmm.
That's a Sāṅkhya as well.
But the question is here, like, why would they put the Sāṅkhye and Sāṅkhya when by actually in Srila Prabhupada is talking about yoga?
Sāṅkhya and yoga.
Yeah, like, and I don't think Srila Prabhupada meant by this yoga as the, stretching of your legs and
No, not at all.
It's talking about yoga.
Sure, it's because here he says, thus far I've described it to you in terms of Sāṅkhya, by which you can tell, and then he says, buddhir yoge imāṁ śṛṇu, now hear from me about how you can linking your intelligence. See, buddhyā, by intelligence, yukto, dovetailed.
Mm-hmm.
Buddhi yoge, work without fruitive results. Okay, let's keep going because it could take us forever, especially when we get tired. We like dive deep into every detail. And
something about being tired, our brain is just like,
yeah, exactly.
Take us to different angles.
Yeah,
which is good and a point, but it's 11 o'clock. We have a podcast.
We have a podcast, yeah. Krishna therefore wanted to explain to Arjuna that by killing the body of his grandfather, he would not be killing the soul proper. And he explained that all individual persons, including the Lord himself, are eternal individuals. They were individuals in the past, they are individuals in the present, and they will continue to remain individuals in the future because all of us are individual souls eternally. We simply change our bodily dress in different manners. It's a reference to that verse, 212. 211, 210, one of them. An analytical study of the soul and the body has been very graphically explained by Lord Krishna, hasn't it? That whole section.
I don't know where you are already, but I'm lost.
Well, you can just be listening, but I'm up to here.
Oh, yeah, okay, thanks.
And this descriptive knowledge of the soul and the body from different angles of vision has been described here as sāṅkhye in terms of the Nirukti dictionary. Now they got the macron there. They didn't have the macron before. This sāṅkhye has nothing to do with the sāṅkhye philosophy of the atheist Kapila. I love this. Long before the impostor Kapila's sāṅkhye, the sāṅkhye philosophy was expounded in the Bhagavad-gita by the true Lord Kapila, the incarnation of Lord Krishna, who explained it to his mother Devahuti. It is clearly explained by him that the Purusha, or the Supreme Lord, is active and that he creates by looking over the Prakriti. This is accepted in the Vedas and in the Gita. The description in the Vedas indicates that the Lord glanced over the Prakriti, or nature, and impregnated it with atomic individual souls. All these individuals are working in the material world for sense gratification, and under the spell of material energy, they are thinking of being enjoyers. This mentality is dragged to the last point of liberation, when the living entity wants to become one with the Lord. This is the last snare of Maya, or sense gratificatory illusion, and it is only after many, many births of such sense gratificatory activities that a great soul surrenders unto Vasudeva, Lord Krishna, thereby fulfilling the search after the ultimate truth. You want to read this next paragraph? Arjuna has already accepted Krishna as his spiritual master by surrendering himself unto him.
Las letras.
Shishyasteham shadimam tvam propanam.
Consequently, Krishna will now tell him about the working process in Buddhi Yoga or Karma Yoga, or in other words, the practice of devotional service only for the sense gratification of the Lord. This Buddhi Yoga is clearly explained in chapter 10, verse 10, as being the direct communion with the Lord, who is sitting as Paramatma in everyone's heart. But such communion does not take place without devotional service. One who is therefore situated in devotional or transcendental loving service to the Lord, or in other words, in Krishna consciousness, attained to this stage of Buddhi Yoga by the special grace of the Lord. The Lord says, therefore, that only to those who are always engaged in devotional service out of transcendental love does he award the pure knowledge of devotion in love. In that way, the devotee can reach him easily in the ever wishful kingdom of God.
Ever blissful.
Blissful, wishful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thus, the Buddhi Yoga mentioned in this verse is the devotional service of the Lord, and the word sāṅkhye mentioned herein has nothing to do with the atheistic Sāṅkhye Yoga enunciated by the impostor Kapila. One should not, therefore, misunderstand that the Sāṅkhye Yoga mentioned herein has any connection with the atheistic Sāṅkhya. Nor did that philosophy have any influence during that time, nor would Lord Krishna care to mention such godless philosophical speculations. Real Sāṅkhya philosophy is described by Lord Kapila in the Bhagavad-gita, but even that Sāṅkhya has nothing to do with the current topics. Here, Sāṅkhya means analytical description of the body and the soul. Lord Krishna made an analytical description of the soul just to bring Arjuna to the point of Buddhi Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. Therefore, Lord Krishna's Sāṅkhya and Lord Kapila's Sāṅkhya, as described in the Bhagavatam, are one and the same. They are all Bhakti Yoga. He said, therefore, that only the less intelligent class of men make a distinction between Sāṅkhya Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. So Sāṅkhya means distinction, and particularly the distinction between spirit and matter. Okay, next paragraph is yours.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Of course, atheistic Sāṅkhya Yoga has nothing to do with Bhakti Yoga. Yet an intelligent claim that the atheistic Sāṅkhya Yoga is referred to in the Bhagavad-gita.
Prabhupada's hammering it. He's speaking to someone else's commentary. This is a refutation of another popular, main kind of commentary on Bhagavad-gita.
There are more than 1,000 Bhagavad-gitas these days.
Commentaries, yeah.
I know. It's like, wow. One should therefore understand that Buddhi Yoga means to work in Krishna consciousness in the full bliss and knowledge of devotion or service. One who works for the satisfaction of the Lord only, however difficult such work may be, is working under the principles of Buddhi Yoga and finds himself always in transcendental bliss. By such transcendental engagement, one achieves all transcendental qualities automatically. Wow. By the grace of the Lord, and thus his liberation is complete in itself without his making extraneous endeavors to acquire knowledge. There is much difference between work in Krishna consciousness and work for fruitive results, especially in the matter of sense gratification for achieving results in terms of family or material happiness. Buddhi Yoga is therefore the transcendental quality of the work that we perform.
Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Yeah, it's a massive purport, big purport, a lot of repetition. Prabhupada's hammering home the point. 39. Person one, to personal. Yep, that one we saw. Individual souls, eternally. We simply change our bodily dress in different manners. Okay, there's a change of where that Sāṅkhye has been decapitalized. Purusha has been decapitalized. With atomic individuals, souls, so that's a spelling error. Sāṅkhye has been what? It's been capitalized?
Too much detail to go through. Too much detail to go through.
No.
So my eyes are tired. That's why I'm just like,
it's not too much detail for me to go through. See what I'm excuse me. Okay, so see how Sāṅkhye is lowercase here, lowercase, and then it's uppercase when it's see there it's uppercase here, uppercase. The Sāṅkhye philosophy, Kapila's Sāṅkhye philosophy. The word Sāṅkhye with a capital S here, mentioned herein, and then that's lower. There's uppercase here. Uppercase here. So you see, it says, and the word Sāṅkhye mentioned herein.
That's nothing to do with the impostor Sāṅkhye.
Yeah.
That is capital.
The word Sāṅkhye, it's like,
Can we go and check Srila Prabhupada's writing?
the word Sāṅkhye, it's capital here. But this relates to, remember we looked at the word Bhagavan and the word Aryan.
220, wasn't it? 220?
I mean, I can find it like this.
It was 220.
Hang on, I can do it like this.
Let's see if my memory is working at my age.
At this age and this time of night.
Yeah, and my age.
Search.
100 years
So
old.
watch this. If I say, you know what? We need this to be like overhead or something.
It's okay. It's the time of the night.
Yeah. Use this keyboard here. Okay, if I say the word Bhagavan. Word Bhagavan. Search. And then filter by hierarchy in the Bhagavad-gita. See 2.2. The Sanskrit word Bhagavan. See how it's lowercase?
Mm-hmm.
And then if I look for the word Aryan, there, lowercase. Bhagavan, lowercase. Aryan, lowercase, right? And then if I look for the word sāṅkhye, the word sāṅkhye, it's uppercase. Oh, here we go. We've got some. Thanks for tuning in, my truth.
My truth.
Haribol dear Prabhus, pray I can go to New York City Rath Yatra today. Wow! Simply to receive the Lord's mercy and avoid losing my temper among rascals. Nah, lose it, man. Go nuts. Take a mridanga or some wampus with you and just go nuts. May you achieve darshan of Lord Jagannath.
And happiness.
I'm not scholarly or advanced. I admire you too. Thanks for the live videos, your association. You are so welcome. And thank you for your association.
Yes.
And thanks for the encouragement. Really appreciate it. Yeah, so inconsistent. And here's the thing about it is that you know, it's been taken from lowercase to uppercase.
In that case, what is he trying to convey here? Like to put in uppercase?
Well, let's have a look in a minute. So impostor, noun. Okay, so also impostor. So maybe that's the British spelling or archaic impostor. That's how I would have spelt it. Any connection with the atheistic sāṅkhye? So making that uppercase S makes sense to me. By such transcendental engagement, one achieves all transcendental qualities automatically.
You can see that part.
Sure, but then it's changed to by such transcendental engagement, one achieves all transcendental understanding automatically. Let's have a look at the annotated. Sāṅkhye should always be capitalized Roman. Don't change it on page 121. Achieves all transcendental qualities. You know what? According to this here, it says that these writing in here is not Hayagriva, it's Srila Prabhupada. And here he says, in the carbon copy of the manuscript, the word sense has been penned in a hand that appears to be Srila Prabhupada.
Appears to be Srila Prabhupada.
Okay, so hang on. Maybe the, okay, well, hang on. This doesn't say transcendental sense. This says transcendental qualities. So maybe this is Hayagriva's copy. But it got changed from transcendental qualities to understanding.
What?
Why?
Qualities is completely different to understanding. Why did he change that transcendental understanding? Well, for you to have transcendental qualities, it takes a lot. And for them to say transcendental understanding automatically kind of favors certain people.
I'm just going to open it in Acrobat so I can see the entire annotation. Hang on. Here we go. Agree. I want to read the whole thing. No. Okay, so it's 239. Okay, so we're scrolling through here. Goodness gracious me. 231, 239. Transcendental qualities. Here we go. Now it says, original manuscript, one achieves all transcendental sense automatically. In the carbon copy of the manuscript, the word sense has been penned in by a hand that appears to be Srila Prabhupada's. If while revising I looked at the carbon copy, I should certainly have seen this. If I looked only at the original copy, of course the word wasn't there. In any sense, understanding is close to sense, whereas qualities is not. The original editor seems to have worked from the original copy without consulting the carbon.
What?
Open this file. There it is. You see it there? Transcendental sense.
Achieve all transcendental automatically. That kind of implies like...
No, but it had sense written in there. Sense or senses. It was difficult to discern. But this is speculative to do what he's done here. He should have just left that alone. This is not like, oh, here's an obvious error. Some of these things are obvious errors. Like there's a real obvious error here with, let me go back to the one that people can see. It's this one here. There's a real obvious error right at the beginning, which jumped right out at me, where it says, this, on the basis of persona one sense gratification. Of course, most people would not detect that that was a 1 instead of an L. Because it just, it's obviously personal.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, this one's been pretty heavily edited. And not in a great way, because the capitalization of the word Sāṅkhye versus the word Bhagavan and the word Aryan in 2.2 is inconsistent.
And also Purusha, instead of a cap, they put the capital P. Cross it out, like, oh.
Yeah. It's using a different style than the one that Srila Prabhupada used. I can understand what they're thinking though. They're like, yeah, we applied this particular. They might have generated that as the style that they applied in the Bhagavad-gita later. Because remember that they did this one quite early on. Anyway, let's have a look at the actual verse and the meaning, right? So he's described it in terms of the analytical study. He's now going to describe it in a different way. I mean, I can give a deeper explanation of that, but one thing to focus on in here is the Prabhupada's arguing against an atheist's commentary. I don't know whose commentary it is, but whoever it is, and maybe it's a whole lineage of commentaries probably coming from Shankara and his followers, that this refers to the atheistic Sāṅkhya. The imposter Kapila. I mean, I have a whole thing about this, but I probably don't want to tell it to you because I'm Rakshashagan and it's entertaining for me, but it might be disturbing, blasphemous for devotees to hear it.
Say it to me later.
Yeah.
I will take your insights.
Yeah, I won't say it on here. People will accuse me of being a covert Illuminati infiltrator, a reptilian satanic initiate.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised if I was. That's what.
Not, that's the thing.
Well, that's what makes me different from them. Is like they think everyone else is like a conspirator, but I'm such a conspiracy theorist. I wake up in the morning and like, am I one? Am I? See, these people, they're like, they think, Sitapati maybe he is, but they never think that they are. So they're not real conspiracy theorists. You got to think that you might be the Manchurian candidate. You know the Manchurian candidate? Yeah. Yeah, it's just like such a powerful thing here. So the Kapila Sāṅkhye is in the teachings of Kapila Dev. There's a book. Teachings of
the Kapila, the atheistic guy. Well, it will be, I don't know. It's just my understanding. Will be okay to read it, that book, to understand exactly what he's trying to say.
Oh, the atheistic one?
Mhm.
It's basically the same as the... Okay, so I'm going to tell you my conspiracy theory then.
Okay.
Essentially what it is the atheistic Kapila Sāṅkhye is exactly the same as the theist Kapila Sāṅkhye, right? Except instead of 24 elements, there are 25 or 26 elements.
Of what?
Well, there's all the material elements plus the soul and the super soul.
Okay.
That's the only difference.
So they added something else.
No, you see, now here's the conspiracy theory. So you see, the official narrative.
Actually, talking about Kapila, I had a little book about Kapila.
Yeah, it's this, Teachings of Lord Kapila.
Yeah. I have that book.
So the thing about it is that the official conspiracy theory is that the original Lord Kapila Devahuti, the son of Devahuti, expounded the theistic Sāṅkhye. And then later, an imposter atheist Kapila came along and he expounded the atheistic Sāṅkhye, right? Which is exactly the same as the theist Sāṅkhye, except it's minus the soul and the super soul.
So it's taking the soul and the super soul out of the equation.
Yeah. Okay.
And that makes it theistic.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you ready for the conspiracy theory? Ready?
No, I'll say it.
So here's the thing. Let me preface this by saying what Bhaktivinoda Thakur said about Sri Krishna Samhita, right?
Mm-hmm.
That this is for a particular audience. And traditional readers of the Vedas, may not appreciate this. And with folded hands, I say there's nothing wrong with that. What has been said there, and this particular way of looking at it is another way of looking at it. And for the traditional adherents, they will consider this to be blasphemous. So I want to say that at the outset, right? And then I'm just going to quote the verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita that says, one should not avoid such controversies because by considering them, it strengthens one's mind and draws one closer to Krishna. Now, consider this. If the atheistic Sāṅkhye is the imposter and it came along and they put it on top of the theistic Sāṅkhye, why does the atheist Kapila Dev not have to repudiate the theistic one? See, what you have there is you have one version which has got 24 things in it, and the other one adds 2 things to it. The other one doesn't take 2 things out. Because if you was an existing system and then you wanted to layer another one on top and take the other 2 things out, well, how would you do that? You'd have to see how the theistic Kapila Dev, when talking about it, it's like, the commentary that Prabhupada is refuting here.
Mm-hmm.
In that commentary, do you think they're saying like, oh, the later, the imposter theistic one, the only reason why the theistic Kapila Dev references the atheistic Kapila Dev
is because he took 2 primary things out of the book.
Yeah.
Which is the soul and the super soul.
Okay, but if you look at it like this, what's more likely and what would it look like if this were the case? So consider this case. The atheistic one came first, and then the theistic one takes the atheistic one and just adds the soul to it. It's probably easier to make a 24-element system into a 26-element system than it is to take a 26-element system and take 2 of the elements out. Like, how would you do that? How would you actually do that? If there's an already existing well-known system with 26 elements, if you were going to present a 24-element one, you would have to write a refutation of those 2 elements and explain why you took them out. Because everyone would just be like, bro, this is the existing one with 2 of the things taken out. The only way you could pull that off is if you were only showing the 24 element system to people who had never seen the 26 element system. But if the 26 element system was already existing and people knew it, your new system, people would just be like, bro, it's like the iPhone SE. You just took out the camera. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But because the theistic Kapila Dev system also includes commentaries that have to repudiate the atheist Kapila, probably means that the atheist Kapila came first. Now, as I said, it's blasphemous. You should not believe that. Oh my God, now my mind has become disturbed. Did the other one come first? Whatever. Anyway, I like to joke about it, you know? Like I take a famous atheist like Richard Dawkins. I say, the incarnation Dawkins, not the later atheist imposter.
There's many more today.
Let's have a look at
That's a good question, though. Yeah.
About which one came first.
Came first.
Yeah, I mean, the official belief is that...
the thing is, like, the truth always existed.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Krishna always, God always existed. There's no beginning or end.
Mm-hmm.
And to eliminate the truth, you have to lie. So you have to diminish something, you take away something.
I can give you another. This is the kind of thing where it's like, these things are not for the neophytes, you know?
Thank you.
You're welcome. So this is the teachings of Kapila. So, it's like Brahma Samhita. You know the Brahma Samhita? Venum kvanantam aravinda dalaya taksham barhavatam samasitam buddha sundarangam kandarpa koti kamaniya vishesha shobham govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami.
Mm-hmm.
The 5th chapter of the Brahma Samhita. So, the Brahma Samhita supposedly lost. And the only part of it that we have is the 5th chapter. And you know where that came from? How we got the 5th chapter? Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he goes into a temple of Kurma in South India, and he found it in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then some people say about that, well, actually, he went into that temple, he wrote it himself, because it's a kind of a thing that in order to support your, because like Nisringa Prabhu was saying to me, like, oh, you can't have something if it's not supported by the scripture. Devotional service without reference to the Puranadi, is like a, the verse is simply a disturbance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so if you have some new thing that you want to introduce, you just write a scripture to support it, and then you find it in a temple. We found an ancient scripture in this temple, So that's what some people say about the Brahma Samhita. So they say that, the Shikshastakam, so the only things we have written by Mahaprabhu's own hand, his own direct stuff, is the Shikshastakam and the Brahma Samhita, if, like these people say that he wrote it himself. And this was Tripurari Swami's point. He said, and this is the thing about it, man. He said, they some people charge that Mahaprabhu didn't find the 5th chapter of the Brahma Samhita. He wrote it himself, and then supposedly found there. And he said, well, we would consider that to be even better because it was directly written by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's a cult member, man. It's like he forged the scriptures, and they're like, even better. It's a self-sealing, like it's unfalsifiable. That's when it's like, that's what it actually ultimately is to be a devotee. It's jnana shunya bhakti. You're beyond reason. You're beyond like philosophy or anything. It's like, why do you believe that Krishna is God? And you don't have any reasons. You're just like, I'm sorry, I just do. Where is the list of the 24 elements of material nature?
The 24 or 26? I think it's the 26.
I think we can find it by doing a search. Let's do a search and let's have a look into the purports in here. So it's like if we look for 24 elements in Super Soul, I think we should find it like this. Ta-da! There we go. I'm a genius, according to the Sāṅkhye philosophy. Let's have a look at this one. Yeah. Okay. It's been a long time since I read these things. According to the Sāṅkhye system of philosophy, there are 25 elements. The 24 elements already described plus the time factor make 25. According to some learned philosophers, the super soul is included to make a total of 26 elements. So it's chapter 26, text 18. So yeah, here they go. Okay, so you got the three modes of material nature. The aggregate elements, the five gross, the five subtle elements, the four internal senses, the five senses for gathering knowledge, and the five outward organs of action, pradhan. The breakdown, five gross elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Five subtle elements, smell, taste, color, touch, and sound.
Mm-hmm.
The senses for acquiring knowledge and the organs for action, number 10, hearing, taste, touch, sight, smell. The active organs for speaking, manipulation, working, traveling, walking, generating, reproduction, and evacuating. The internal subtle senses are experienced as having four aspects in the shape of mind, intelligence, ego, and ahankara, contaminated consciousness. Distinctions between them can be made only by different functions, since they represent different characteristics of the same thing, the internal sense. All of these are considered the qualified Brahman, the mixing element, which is known as time, Vishesh Brahman, qualified Brahman. 25th element is time. Brahmana Saguna, so Saguna Brahman, Brahman with qualities.
Mm-hmm.
Saguna. Not nirguna, but saguna, with qualities. Time factor. So there's actually where's the soul in that? The soul is not in there. The false ego, the mind, transformation of the false ego. Oh yeah, this is another verse that I really remember here is doubt, misapprehension, correct apprehension, memory, and sleep is determined by the different functions said to be the distinct characteristics of intelligence. So doubt is a function of discriminating power of intelligence.
Yeah.
Egoism, the mode of passion, egoism and ignorance. This is such good stuff. But where is... So as I recall it, it's the 20... This
11:30, just let you know.
Okay. See, here we go. Here's a Prabhupada giving a class on it. These 24 elements are covering the spirit soul. This body's made of these 24 elements, but above this, there is the soul, and above that, there is the super soul. So
26.
Well, 24 plus the time factor, the mixing element makes 25. And then...
With the soul.
Yeah, the 24, and then the soul and the super soul. So this whole system that Kapila presents doesn't have the soul or the super soul in it. It's solely material analysis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, European philosophers, they like the Sāṅkhye philosopher of another Kapila. Here is Kapila Deva. He is the incarnation of God, but there's an imitation Kapila. He's the atheist Kapila. The Sāṅkhya Karika, that is very much liked by European philosophers, because in the Sāṅkhya Karika, these 24 elements are studied very minutely without any reference to the soul and the super soul. That is the difference between two Sāṅkhya philosophy, atheist Sāṅkhya philosophy and theist Sāṅkhya philosophy. Yeah. So, I mean, some people say that the Bhagavad-gita was compiled in the year 500 AD and that it consists of like basically grabbing whatever the hottest kind of philosophies and things were and then ramming them all together and adding Krishna to it. Whatever. Anyway, death to the atheist philosopher Kapila. He's an imposter. He's not the real deal. We're going to go with that. What was the name of the guy? Prabhupada mentions him and he talks about him. And he says, let me see if I can find it. This is the last search here, which is the Bhagavad-gita, compiled 500 AD. Compiled by Vyasadeva 500 years ago. Maybe even later.
5,000.
5,000. Did I say 500?
Yeah.
Yeah, 5,000 years ago. Prabhupada talks about him somewhere. They say that this other person compiled the Bhagavad-gita. Anyway, Srila Prabhupada goes to great length here to repudiate this Kapila, imposter Kapila. Long before the imposter Kapila's Sāṅkhye, the Sāṅkhye philosophy was expounded in the Srimad Bhagavatam by the true Kapila, the incarnation of Lord Krishna, who explained it to his mother Devahuti. See, even if in one kind of sense or one angle or vision or perspective, this atheist Kapila, this is the kind of heresy is why I never give Bhagavatam class in an ISKCON temple. This is why I never do it. Because this blows people's mind when I say stuff like this. See, even if you showed me that, here's this Kapila who wrote this Sāṅkhye Karika, and then, someone took it and then they rammed it together and put it with this conception of Krishna. And then here's Prabhupada saying that there's this, this Devahuti who exists, and Devahuti Kapila Devahuti Putra, the son of Devahuti, that Kapila Dev who expounded the Bhagavad Sāṅkhye philosophy. Even if you showed me that, I would still be like, this explanation here that there's this Kapila Dev, there is another dimension in which that's real. Because the question is, what is real? And there's like a simulation that we're living in. Like, we are not these bodies. And this entire universe, everything, even when they analyze, down to the quantum realm, they discover that, that matter and experience of the universe, time and space itself, arises out of the conscious perception of living entities. So it brings the question to a very real way, what is real? What is real? Then all of these.
Since this material world is an illusion, well, it's not real, isn't it? It's an illusion. So what is real is what's happening somewhere else. But we having an experience of like the illusion. I mean, like, what do they call it? The shadow.
Yeah, it's a shadow. It's a shadow of reality. Well, yeah, I mean, okay, classical answer, because I know how to do 4 on the floor. This Jagan Mithyan Brahma Satya is not true. That the world is false and that Brahman is real. It is that the world is real but temporary. That's like you just assert that as a fact. The world is real but temporary. That's a place for a sadhaka to stand in a way to understand it, and that's the way Prabhupada preached it in public. So we're going with that. The world is temporary. It's real, but it's temporary. Yeah. And what does it mean that it's real, but it's temporary? It means that it's a temporary experience for you.
Right.
Yeah, like we experience this as real, but like, where's the reality that you were experiencing 100 years ago?
Well, the thing is, like, if you stand up in the light and I can see your shadow is real, but it's not you, it's your shadow. But your shadow exists. It is real.
Yeah, that's good.
You know what I mean? That's what I'm taking. It's like,
that's a very good analysis.
Yeah.
Example.
Like, this world is real, but it's not real.
Yeah, so we're experiencing the shadow of it. So that's what I'm pointing to here is even if you showed me, this, Kapila and this thing, I'm like, we're looking at the shadow. But what's being described here is not the shadow. And even the description of it, you could say, oh, that's just a made up story and everything. And,
well, there's going to be that question of like, oh, it's just a made up story about something real exists. Obviously, because you know what, you're just in contact with the shadow, and your experience, your association is with the shadow. But as a shadow, you will never have the experience of the real. And you as a real will never have the experience of the shadow, because it's your shadow. You see, you don't have this concrete, like I'm touching you, I can see it's real. It's Sitapati, my husband, here. And I have Sitapati, my husband, shadow. It's here. I know it's real. But hey, I touch it, but I cannot feel him. You know what I mean? Yeah, so both of you cannot have the experience of each other, although exist. That's what I'm understanding. I'm just sort of looking at your shadows like, okay, it exists. I'm watching it. I'm looking at it. I'm touching you. I know you're real. Your shadow is real too. I use the shadow of my husband. I know it's the shadow of my husband.
Yeah, it's good. Thank you.
Yeah, just I'm looking for that point.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, in one place it says that the Supreme Brahman is that going towards which mind and words turn back, that they cannot capture it, they cannot describe it. And it's true that...
I think with analogy we can teach this,
With analogy, yeah. And the other thing about it is that Madhava Ghosh used to say this a lot. He understood me. We understood this. We understood each other on this. The map is not the territory. Like you could read this book and go, oh yeah, and then you can memorize what's in it. But by practicing what's in there, you get, it's indescribable. There's an experience of reality, and an experience of like what we consider to be reality that is unshakable. It says pratyakshavagamam dharmyam susukam kartamavyam. It gives direct perception of the self through realization. And my realization of it is that it basically makes you effectively kind of like delusional or insane from the perspective, and it's Prabhupada's Who is Crazy all over again, the essay that he wrote, who's crazy, the people who think that they're the body, or these people who are convinced that they're not the body. Like they literally are. If you say that, oh, you're not the body, and it's a cute kind of idea that you have, that's okay. But if you actually are that you are not the body, then you're crazy by modern standards, right? Delusional. Like, sure, you can think that, but like you can't act as if you were in any real sense. You have to just act like, if I take a person who believes they are the body, a person who doesn't know whether they're the body or not, and a Hare Krishna devotee says, I'm not the body. At the end of the day, when it comes to Pride Month, vaccine mandates, literally anything, they should all act the same. You can't actually take any different actions based on that understanding, or you're considered to be crazy. Like if they say, well, you have to take this vaccine thing or otherwise you're going to die in that. And you're like, well, we're not the body. And then they're like, that's crazy. And then devotees will invent all kinds of like mental gymnastics so that, at the end of the day, although we say that we have like this radically different conception to everyone else, we come to exactly the same conclusions. I don't know how they do that. They add kind of like different layers and mental gymnastics to the whole thing to get there. Just like they somehow turn Bhagavad-gita into a book advocating non-violence. I don't know how they do that either, how they accomplish that mental feat. It's crazy. I don't even know how I got onto that point. It's late. And then once I get tired like this, man, I start like from normal human perspective hallucinating. Like making these mental connections that other people are like, you can't think that will make you not be a devotee. Otherwise, you'll start wondering whether Krishna's real. It's like, what does real even mean? You know what I'm saying? Like to the materialist, they're like, Krishna is not real. And like I said it on the podcast today, I said, we worship, we serve a shadowy, non-existent, materially non-existent master. He's all pervading. He's everywhere and he's nowhere. And he's within the heart of all living entities, and he has his own personal form apart from that, and he has no material existence. Lord Vishnu. I mean, that's just like literally insane. It's unfalsifiable. It's imperceptible. It's like just completely made up. It's not real. Like, in what sense is that real? In the sense that people use the term real, like, here's this thing here, and it's real. It's real. You know, it's real.
11:41.
Okay.
That's real.
It's not real, honey. Well, it is real, but it's temporary. We could just keep going all night, but we'll be back tomorrow. What was this verse even about? Sāṅkhye, the analytical knowledge of Sāṅkhye. This is the kind of thing that the analytical study of Sāṅkhye gets you to this point of like considering what is reality, what is it composed of, and what constitutes what's real. And the fundamental point here between these two systems is that one system has things in it, because even the subtle things in the Sāṅkhya karikya are they're discriminate, they're able to be inferred and reasoned about through, like discriminating function of the intelligence, doubt, apprehension, misapprehension, etc. However, the soul and the super soul are completely imperceptible, and you can create a complete self-sealed picture of the universe in Sāṅkhye without them. So people are just like, why'd you add the soul and the super soul? And it's like, just because there's nothing else. There's the other stuff can all be seen or experienced, but the soul and the super soul can't be experienced because they are that which experiences.
They cannot be experienced. But the experience,
because they are that which experiences, and in the Bhagavad-gita it explains it. I think
experiencers.
Yeah, exactly. They're not the experiences; they are the experiencers.
Yeah.
The 24 elements are experiences, and the soul and the super soul are experiencers. So they're not possible to be able to see. And the Bhagavad-gita says it like this: it says, "Can the eyeballs see themselves? No." Only like the things, like, can't the microphone see the eyes? No. The eyes can see the microphone. But can the eyes see the mind? No. But the mind can perceive the sense perception of the eyes.
Yeah.
And in the same way, can the mind approach the soul? No. The soul experiences the mind. And then can the soul perceive the super soul? No. The soul is perceived by the super soul. And it's by analogy that you go like, okay, you say that the soul and the super soul exist there, but they're imperceptible completely. But then you go, but they would be if they existed, right? Just like the microphone can't see the eyes and the eyes can't see the mind, the soul, it kind of, that one you can go like, I kind of can see that does exist because I am something having an experience.
Yeah.
So that's the soul. The nature of the soul is what? Chit? Ananda and Sat. Sat, Chit, Ananda. So the Chit function of the soul is that I have knowledge of an experience, conscious experience of something. And then there's the super soul beyond that. And then when you go into quantum science, you actually do arrive through inference and through logic and through analysis of the thing and mathematics to the existence of the soul, consciousness, and the nature of the universe. Anyway, it's fascinating stuff, but Krishna has...
Quantum is a fascinating thing.
Yeah.
So the Bhagavad-gita is basically is everything in one.
Oh yeah, and it's like it's the essence of the thing. It's the Gita Upanishad. It's the essence of that Sāṅkhye and that whole thing given in that second chapter in a very practical setting, to solve a pragmatic problem in life. It's incredible.
Yeah, it has philosophy, it has psychology, it has, wow, it's incredible. Yeah, like you said.
It's so deep. Okay, let's read the verse and write it out.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, you ready?
Sorry.
We just went for an hour on that. We were like, let's do a quick class and then, okay.
Please, let's go to bed. I'm tired.
Eshate bhihitā sāṅkhye buddhir yoge imāṁ śṛṇu buddhyā yukto yayā pārtha karma-bandhaṁ prahāsyasi.
Thus far, I have declared to you the analytical knowledge of Sāṅkhya philosophy. Now listen to the knowledge of yoga, whereby one works without fruitive results, O son of Pṛthā. When you act by such intelligence, you can free yourself from the bondage of works.
Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam, total world victory
Hare
of Hare Krishna.
Mi shadow.